Okay.
Nice.
Welcome. All right. So we are going to talk about where you're at. You wrote in the meeting description. I'll just read what you wrote really
Yep.
quick.
hmm
Let's see here. You would like to get to learn as much as you can about real-time VFX and able to get an entry-level job in as a VFX artist here in Spain or somewhere else. So your
Yep.
name is
Exactly.
Miguel, right? Pronouncing it
Yes.
right. Tell me a little bit more about that. Like, how long have you been at this? What are you up to? And what's like kind of your dream job?
Okay. So, well, I've been into VFX for less than a year, maybe since September or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened because I'm in uh, it's a game design degree, and at some point I had to decide where I want to go with my career. So I went a bit into programming, but I thought that I can't really compete with programmers themselves because they are because I haven't learned as much to make it work. So and I come from an engineer, aerospace engineering. That's what I studied first.
Oh, wow.
So, but I wanted to get into the games industry at some point. So, having that technical background and wanting to be somewhat more artistic, I decided that maybe VFX was what the place where I could fit the best. Yeah.
Right. Cool.
So, and yeah, I started first with he's called Gabriel Aguiar. He has some YouTube courses on Udemy, and well, yeah, and later on I learned about your course, and it was like a gift as I mean, right place, right time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's perfect.
And
Who's the other YouTuber you mentioned?
Gabriel Aguiar Productions, I think.
Oh, yeah. He's got some great stuff.
Yep.
That's a great
And
place
well,
to
he
start.
also has a small course, and I took it as well. And yeah, I'm a slow learner, I think, but getting somewhere.
Right. Well, yeah, there's a lot to take in. I mean,
Mhm.
a lot of these entry level courses, I'm working on building a full collection of courses to kind of
Uh-huh.
just help with introduction to all the different parts, like introduction to 2D effects, introduction to materials, introduction to modeling, or Houdini, or like all the different.
Wow.
There's such a big spectrum of everything. And
Yeah,
so
there's a lot. Yeah.
eventually we'll get to all of it, but you can kind of collect it if you just kind of scour the internet. You can find it kind of all over the place.
Yeah, but it's kind of hard to really get going because there's a lot of small pieces, and you really have to figure out which pieces are the ones that are useful. So
Right. Oh, that's so true. Yeah, and I hope to help you with that. I hope to
no,
clarify.
you definitely have.
Just do these things and don't worry about those things yet. You can get to them later. Yeah. Okay, so you're from a pretty technical background. I mean, aerospace engineering. Wow, that's awesome. And you're coming more towards the artistic end of the spectrum. And how has the class been so far? When did you sign up for the class? Many
I
months ago?
think well, I'm not really sure, but I think around November, December.
Okay.
But
So
yeah, I'm still at university, so I haven't finished the course yet because I'm just taking it
totally cool.
slowly, I think. But I think November, late November or early December, maybe.
So you've been chugging through the class for a few months now.
Yep.
It's like about 5 months, give or take, 4 or 5 months. All right, cool. So we're gonna just dive in and take a look and see where your stuff's at. I'll give you some critiques and reviews, and then maybe we can talk about overarching themes of what you could focus on moving forward.
Okay.
So you shared this YouTube video, and we'll
Yeah, that's
through it.
Yeah. Well, that's like a small collection of things I've done, but it's quite well. It's not good right now, but it's I'm getting better at it. Yeah.
I love that one. That was my favorite. Like the live action. It's like there's like the dead character over there. She's sleeping, right? She's not dead.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Cool. The painting from the class. Got some nice stuff in here. This is cool to see. Oh, recolor it. I like it. The poisony, goopy bubbles coming up. Fire meteor. I like that you've kind of rethemed each of these to become your own. All right, so let's start from the top. First off, this is a fantastic start for a demo reel for effects. Like you've got kind of this nice big variety. You've touched on a lot of different things. I think each of the pieces could use some polish in its own right. And we'll kind of just dive into what I think would be good for each of those. I guess like high level though, so you've come from a technical background, but where do you see yourself headed? Do you want to be more of a technical effects artist that does like more hyper realistic sorts of styles with like PBR, like fully lit textures and like very complex materials? Or do you want to do a more simple material based system that's more texture oriented with a hand painted style? What would you be more geared towards?
I think in the second option, because well, even though I come from a more technical background, I kind of decided to leave. So I'd like to. Well, it's not like I don't want to come back to that, but if I can earn a living in something more artistic, more hand painted, yeah, that would be kind of awesome. Yeah.
All right, so then I'll focus on those skills for you for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this one here, I think there's a great opportunity for your texture painting skills to come through here. As it's swirling around, it's a lot of very radial shapes, and the shapes are very almost geometric. There's a little bit, I'm seeing a little bit of organicness in here, but I think you could have a lot of fun with playing around with like the dissolve in the material of getting those shapes to kind of eat away when a new one spawns in. And so it has that nice vibe to it. I think one struggle also is like controlling the composition on this. So right now, the composition of values is very scattered evenly across the whole thing. You've got very light values and very dark values everywhere. And similar with your saturation, like the scene overall is pretty saturated already. And so you've actually got places in your focal point that are less saturated, which is normal if they're going to also be bright. So like here, you know, as it gets brighter, it's going to get less saturated, closer to white. And that's great. But the problem you run into is where you get these gray areas where actually this thing is actually not the most interesting thing compared to the sort of beautiful, rich colors that I see all around it. So think about, you know, a shot of a nebula. Nebulas are very colorful. They're very bright throughout, but there's always like a focal point of like a ribbon of like bright light through the middle of it or something, or an area that's even more saturated than the rest or has more detail with more stars or something like that. And I would reference that to sort of figure out how you want to do your background, to compose it so that it points you towards this effect in the middle. Whether maybe there's like a saturated strand that comes down and points to it kind of in a very general way, you know, like swooshes down and points into that. Or maybe it's darker with like just little splotches of color that that kind of give a nice flow, like almost like clouds, how clouds can kind of swoop, but then they
Mm-hmm.
come to points, and those points lead the eye towards that center thing that you're trying to convey.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's something to think about, is getting the background and the foreground to work together, right? Save your more saturated areas for here, and then the brightest point probably towards the middle. Now, is this intended to be a planet or a black hole?
Yeah, I'd say a black hole. Yeah,
Okay.
some black hole-ish. Yeah.
Yeah, it's black hole-ish. I like it. So looking at this, it feels a little more like a crystal ball than it does like a black hole. A lot of this is
Mm-hmm.
because things are rendering behind it.
Yep.
So you're going to need a very bold black card that
Yeah.
sits in the middle of that to hide
Mm-hmm.
anything behind it. Because right now, if it's kind of just transparent, it feels like a glass orb sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
Also, with the black hole, you're going to want it to feel like, there's trouble going on at the rim of it, at the event horizon, right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
so having some motion, some animation, maybe some cards that move, other black holes that I've seen done, and one that I worked on myself, like we actually ended up doing distortion, where
Mm-hmm.
the distortion kind of wobbles around the edge. Um,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
that was a really cool idea that one of my coworkers, Ali Sorensen, had to add that in there. So that's pretty cool. These bits kind of coming in are pretty neat, how they like kind of fade out when they get to the center. I like that motion. I think you could exaggerate the timing on that motion just a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So like, maybe they like swoosh in at the end and they go a little bit faster or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Might be tricky to do, but it could also be possible with a vector field or something like that. Um, do these have ribbons coming off of them? Am I seeing these little bits circling? Do they have
Yeah.
little
There's
ribbons?
some trailing. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I think I would take advantage of that as
Mm-hmm.
like maybe these bits lean a little more either red or a little more green than the rest of it, and so that the trail coming off of them can have that interest. Maybe they're pink, and so you have like a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of um, little touch of color coming through. Because right now the color of the ribbon is getting lost in this bigger swoosh. So like this guy here is emitting a little ribbon,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm losing it in there. You could create some visual interest that way as well. Um, yeah, so like varying up the swooshiness in these rings is going to feel really nice. I think what it is that you've got really good shape, like really good elements in there. You've got a nice all the parts of the composition together, and now you
Mm-hmm.
need to massage them to get them all to play nicely together to get a cohesive, beautiful little effect going on.
Okay. Yeah.
Also, it doesn't feel like it's at the scale of a black hole. So, like, because everything is going so quickly,
Mm-hmm.
it tells me that this is like a small little thing, which maybe is fine, but just keep in mind if you want it to feel like more grand and epic, you would need to both add more detail to the shapes in here and then slow
Mm-hmm.
it down so it feels
Yeah.
larger.
Hmm.
Whereas if you
I
want it to
hadn't thought
feel
about it.
small, yeah, if you want it to feel small, it's fine the way it is. Like if it's like a character ability that they're like shooting like a mini black hole out of a gun or something like that, then the scale probably works just fine for that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Hmm.
Awesome, Miguel. Let's move on to the next. All right. So on this one, I like instantly what's grabbing me is that the head of the missile
Yep.
feels fairly static. Like it's like it is a
Mm-hmm.
texture on a mesh. And I'd like to see you try to hide that from me. Like,
Yep.
don't let me know that it's a texture on a mesh. So the first step would be adjusting the texture to feel more like its energy. Right now, it's very crisp and
Mm-hmm.
clear, and then it's not hidden at all on the edges of it, like where it's dissolving. I can kind of see more or less where it's ending. So what I mean to say is I'd like to see like bits of this flicking off as particles behind it.
Hmm.
So like
Okay.
things that have a similar shape language on cards kind of emitting back off of it, so it's like breaking away,
Hmm.
so that
Yeah, sure. Hmm.
it would hide the fact that it's just a static mesh traveling along if it felt like it was leaving parts of itself behind, right?
Yes.
And then this little guy behind it, it has a similar problem where it feels a little disconnected even from the head. So like the head is pretty big, but then for some reason there's like a skinnier trail coming out from the middle. And I would think, try to think of like how they're related to each other. Like, is this um is this fuel that's coming off of like a ball that's hidden inside of the bigger head of the missile? Right? So like, is there something in here that's a similar size to this that would be jettisoning that off, or something like that? I think a lot of
Hmm.
this can be solved with the painting skills that you've been picking up, where you could freeze this frame and then go in and say, how do I want the vibe of this to read and to come across? Also, what I'm running into is a problem with the color. So like we've
Hmm.
got a hot white point here, and then it gets very similar white back here, which doesn't
Oh
make
yeah.
a lot of sense to me. Why would it burn white? But then as it cools
Mhm.
off, it goes from blue back to that white again. And
Yep.
so I'd want to see like a color scheme that in your mind, this energy burns a certain color, and then as it fades off, it transitions into another color. Okay. Got this going on. Yeah, and I think these particles are fine, these little bits that float around. Maybe there's a little too many of them because I'm missing another type of particle or energy that ties me more into this missile, because I'm really only seeing the two primary elements. And
Yep.
these would be like a tertiary element, like a third element that you would tack on after
Hmm.
you figured out how other wisps and things are kind of breaking off from the main thing, that have a similar shape language to what's going on in here. Then I would be interested to see these little tiny bits just to supplement what you've done. Also, like keep in mind again the monochromaticness of it. Like, are you saying that these are made of the same energy as this? And if they
Hmm.
are, why are they a different shape? So this energy has a certain kind of shape profile to it, but then why do these have this share the same color but are different? Like, are they broken off? And if they are broken off, shouldn't they look kind of similar? Or are they something else, or that kind of thing? And I'm not saying make them a completely different color. It needs to be a color still that harmonizes with the overall, but just
Hmm.
have in your mind a good explanation for what kind of embers are these, and uh, how are they related to the overall effect.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Cool. And then on the
I guess
oh,
it's things that I'm learning to think about. Yeah.
yeah, of course, that's what this whole thing's
Mhm.
about.
Yeah.
So for the impact, I feel like the impact is the same size as the missile was. I mean, it's a little
Hmm.
bigger, but it's kind of anticlimactic. I mean, this one gets a little bigger. I think the electric one is a little more successful because it like shoots some things out a little further.
Hmm.
But on the blue one, it kind of feels like the transition isn't convincing me. So
Hmm.
you're not hiding the fact that one particle system ended and another began. The goal should
Hmm.
be to let me to like fool me and make me think that that one particle system turned into the other particle system.
Mm. Okay.
And like your job as a VFX artist is to be an illusionist, right? To fool the audience so that it feels seamless and just like one animation versus many particles spawning. And so when that one dies, it's your job to cover up where it was with an equivalent explosion that starts at the same size as whatever died, or the
Hmm.
same level of intensity, and that rapidly gets bigger or more intense right after before it dissipates. So you need to shelter the one effect inside of the bigger explosion.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then for the zappy one, it feels like just a different shape language, really. Like,
Mm-hmm.
The zap here, it feels more fiery than it does zappy, and so I'm actually surprised to see it turn into electricity because nothing about the missile tells me that it's going to be electrical. So
Yep.
find some way to retheme it to be more electrical, even as a missile, before it turns into this. And then the sort of bold, simple shapes that you've got going on in here turn into very skinny, very busy shapes in the electricity. And so that's something to watch out for. To get those to tie together. So if you're going to do bold electric shapes, make sure that those carry through. Or if you're going to do skinny, tenderly electric shapes, make sure those carry through. Although I will say, where everything is skinny on the
Mm-hmm.
on the impact, both these little zaps and the outer zaps, it's hard for me to know. It's hard to feel the satisfaction from that. Like it doesn't
Okay.
feel like it's got like a strong outward force that would do something. It feels more just like a static field that's sort of ambiently there versus like
Mm-hmm.
an impact, something that's bold and intense. Okay, that's been a
Okay.
lot on
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
questions so far. I've been kind of just going and going.
No, but it's totally perfect. Like well, this kind of things, like I when you say them, I see them, but it's still hard for me um, to figure them out of the blue. Like I
Yeah,
have so much to learn yet. So yeah, but it's. I mean, I'm writing everything down, so at least
cool.
I can get back to this. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is like, I mean, we won't spend too long on this, but this looks like a mix of video footage and
Mm-hmm.
simulation footage.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's fun. I like it. It's so cheesy. Okay.
Yeah, it's quite easy.
It's cool though. Okay, so tell me about this lightsaber. That looks like a very
um,
millions of particles, right? That's like a pre-rendered simulation.
yeah, that's just a 3D modeling. Well, to show that I can do some sort of 3D modeling,
Right.
and there's no particles there. Yes, it's a light. So yeah.
When showing this reel, if you're gearing it more towards a stylized, uh, sort of like punchy style, I think including both of these examples at the end is just fine. It's great.
Mhm.
But I would probably want all of this other stuff earlier on in the reel so that the person watching it knows that that's your focus.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I think,
Well,
oh, go ahead.
I'm not even sure that I will include them if I like. But well, I will see. Yeah.
And I think that your strongest pieces are these at the end,
Mm-hmm.
the green cloud and then the burst. And I see they're using elements from the class, which is great.
Yeah, there's some textures there. Yeah.
You're repurposing some stuff in really interesting ways. I like it. And so I would include these much earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
This one's not as strong. We can talk a little bit about how to improve it. The painting, I think it'd be fun if you wanted to take the skills that you learned to do this painting. It'd be
Mm-hmm.
fun to see you try something that's like a variant because we're starting to see a lot of these show up, obviously, because it's the practice in the class.
Yeah.
But like switching it up and kind of making it your own in some way for your portfolio would be really rad. Like
Hmm.
use the same principles, but maybe compose it in a slightly different way. Like maybe it's like a ring of fire, or maybe it's like shooting upward, like instead of outward, or just something like that. And then choosing a different color palette so that it's not simple fire, but maybe
Yeah.
it's
Mm-hmm.
like you did green fire or purple fire, something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. So here we go with this nature burst. I actually like that suck-in timing. It's pretty cool. It like tells me that it's about to hit. I think you could start it even darker, like fainter, like not as bright,
Mm-hmm.
and then work it up to where it's at now when it just before it impacts. Because it's actually really solid timing on the windup. I think the impact could use help on its timing, where you've got this ring coming out on the ground. I would make it scale up way faster at first and then slow way down at the end of its life.
Okay.
Because right now it's just kind of blip, traveling out very evenly. The follow through you've got on the leaves is just fantastic. Just like coming around, and then you've got the bits flying straight up. I think the ground crack could use a bit of work. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel it doesn't feel like it's the result of this explosion. It feels like it's the result of a different explosion.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that it is, it's almost like roots. Like it feels like something slowly kind of like crept out and found its way along. You've got it happening so quickly and so abruptly that I'm expecting more straight lines.
Yeah, makes sense.
Does that?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, like hard impact, like bam, it just shatters outward. Now, if the ground texture were in here and the ground kind of looked like that and followed those same kind of lines, then it would make a lot more sense. But where it's a very smooth ground, I'm inclined to believe that it would shatter like plastic or glass, something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Or even concrete.
Okay.
So yeah, we're kind of out of time.
Yeah. I was about
Any
to tell you.
questions to follow up on any of this stuff?
Well, not really. I had a question like man, just about if you're going to do more courses, and maybe I read that you're about to do a 2D one. Like I would be very interested in it, but like a 2D effect.
That we are planning the next class to be a 2D effects class. And then after that, I plan to do a materials class. And I'll do a broader announcement on this. If this video gets posted before those come out, then I guess that's part of the announcement.
Yep.
But those are the classes in the works that I am currently working on. And there's some other announcements coming soon as well. Lots to do. I'm super excited.
Yeah.
And seeing progress with students like you super jazzy, like it jazzes me up.
Yeah. Yeah, your free time is not much. Yeah.
Yeah, I do what I can. For sure. Cool.
Well, okay. This was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely fantastic. I think you're well on your way. I'm looking at these at the end. I think this kind of creativity is going to be really fun for you. Again, like the timing was pretty even on how that comes out. Like just watch these rings that you have growing, make them punchy and then slow down. We've got some samples in the class that have that sort of timing that you can reference. I like the ambient smoke that you've got going on, though. That's pretty sweet. And then like the shimmering stuff out on the ground. It's really nice. Yeah, these are your strongest effects by far.
Well, most of them are, I'm getting tutorials all over the internet. So so far, I don't really have a lot of, purely my own, as I'd say. But it will come, yeah.
Well, your ability to follow the tutorials is promising because I know from this you're building up that mental library that you'll need to really thrive on your own projects in the future. So yeah, man, keep it up. You're doing great.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll catch you later.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank
Goodbye.
You, Bye.